And hello, welcome to Open, the show opening the Bronx and the rest of the world right to you. I'm Daren Jaime. Today we'll update you on what's happening in our borough and as well as across New York City. Coming up, we'll learn about events helping people understand their emotions and the impact it has on their lives. Then, we'll discuss the importance of cervical health cancer and learn about signs and symptoms to look out for. Afterwards, we'll talk about how one organization is promoting health and social justice for South Asian immigrant women right here in New York City. And then finally, we'll discuss how one person is providing food for the community in a major way. More details a little bit later on in the show. We encourage you to stay tuned because all this and much more is heading your way because we're officially now open. And hello, everyone. I'm Daren Jaime. You are now watching Open, a live program bringing the Bronx and New York City straight to you. We also want to welcome our viewers to Manhattan Neighborhood Network as Open is being broadcast simultaneously on Eminence channels. You can stay connected to us on all of our social media platforms at BronxNet TV. Well, some things have been going on through the past week. We'll take you through some of them with our Bronx updates. And we start off with community news. New York City Parks, NYC, EDC, and Bronx representatives have announced $87 million coming to the Orchard Beach Pavilion project. Our BronxNet reporter, Jonathan Calixto, has the details.
Since 1936, the Orchard Beach Pavilion has been a historical landmark in the Bronx, and now it is getting the ultimate makeover.
This is an area that sees about 1.6 million tourists a year. This is a real surreal moment because it recognizes that for so long we've never had the investments in Orchard Beach as we should have. So I say this is a long time coming, but it's very necessary. And in 2025, we'll see the official ribbon cutting.
I'm grateful for both the de Blasio administration and certainly now the Adams administration for investing in the Bronx.
For local officials, the $87 million project is an opportunity to make the Orchard Beach Pavilion more accessible and increase tourism.
We're trying to make the beach accessible to all, so we're including lifts and ramps for folks to come in through the pavilion. We're also modernizing this.
I hope it increases local tourism as much as we possibly can. I think, we want to make it more accessible. We want people to be able to open up more shops, particularly local residents.
I think the community is going to benefit. The Bronx residents are going to benefit, and I think people from New York City and throughout will be able to come and enjoy this wonderful pavilion when it's completed.
Reporting for BronxNet, Jonathan Calixto.
And thank you, Jonathan. In other news, Gynecologic Foundation partnered with TikTok stars to announce their first donation to build a state-of-the-art music production department at a local high school right here in the borough of the Bronx. Our BronxNet reporter, Chanel Thompson, has a story.
Wings Academy High School has a lot to be thankful for this holiday season as they partnered up with Give a Note Foundation, who offered a $15,000 musical donation towards their program, and it was hosted by TikTok superstars, the Boykins. TikTok stars, the Boykins, surprised students at Wings Academy High School with a performance and a $15,000 donation from Give a Note Foundation towards the school's music program. Co-founder of Artists for Artists, Matthew Reich, tells us all about the partnership.
We work closely with Give a Note Foundation, which is an organization that brings opportunities like this, amazing, incredible opportunities to bring music education to schools where it's needed the most, in communities that are underserved, where students can really benefit from some of the tools that the world has to offer.
The Boykins wanted to share how much of an impact they wanted to spread to the youth, and here is what they had to say.
This experience has reminded us why we do what we do, and our purpose is, to inspire the next, and just to absorb that energy, and just to get the reactions to our music. It just means the world.
The energy was immaculate. I loved it so much. This is what we needed, as people. We need to be uplifted like this, like we uplift them. Give the same energy back and forth. So we loved it today.
The principal of Wings Academy High School, Monique Jackson Dickens, wanted students to know how important music is and what the donation can do for them in the near future.
So it was definitely a surprise to me, but we were awarded a $15,000 grant to build a music studio, and that's something that we know music is universal. Many of our students, they love music, and we want to be able to give them an opportunity to be able to learn about music, produce their own music, so that they can move on to the careers of their choice.
Music is where the heart is, and that's why Melissa Salguero, Wings Academy's music teacher, wanted to express what the students mean to her and why music is an outlet.
Honestly, it gets me kind of emotional because, it's a hard time to be a teacher, and we're struggling to create a high-quality music education program here. This is my second year at Wings Academy, and I love this school so much, but we need so many resources. We're focusing on building a music technology lab so that the students can stop talking about music and start making music.
Reporting for BronxNet, Chanel Thompson.
And thank you, Chanel. Congratulations goes out to the Wings Academy High School and Boykins, a very special group there. All right, that's all the time we have for our Bronx updates. We are taking a quick break, but don't go anywhere. We'll have more open when we return.
Every day, thousands of kids start vaping. And I can't let this happen to my kid. Of course, it's awkward to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping. Hey, bestie, how's sketches, vaping? It's hard to get their attention. Ready? Go. Yes, look at that. You didn't turn yours over. So if you want to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping, you have to get it trending. Right, Backpack Kid?
Let's do it.
First, invite your kid to do the vape talk. Let's try this. All right.
Why is he here?
Yeah, I gotta get it trending, honey.
Come on.
To the left. To the right. Let's go.
Oh, honey, can we talk?
Yeah, what's up?
I see a lot of your friends vaping.
Visit talkaboutvaping.org for tips on when and how to have the vape talk.
Even though we didn't grow up together, he's my favorite brother.
Hey, sis.
I'm the baby of the family, and he's the gentle giant.
What you know about Port Georgia?
Man, please, that's a classic.
You know when they say people are a rare breed? Yeah, he's that.
I'm sorry, I'll be back in a few hours.
Don't worry, Shug, you know I'm for you.
I know.
Go get the football.
That was my favorite memory. He was always for ya. This is a true story of me, Bridget Floyd, and this guy, George Perry Floyd Jr., my big brother.
Hey, boss. Okay?
I said I'm fine.
Put me to bed, see you in the morning. With the frosted Superman, but it wasn't on it. And we lost it.
You can talk to me.
It's been really, really hard for me.
Is that time yet?
It's time.
Let's start time for dinner.
Oh, it's really big.
Pasta dinner.
Donating pet food is one of the many ways you can help families in your community. Pets and people belong together. Learn more at petsandpeopletogether.org.
You're not gonna get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff.
Mama!
Like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Welcome back. Mental and emotional health is something that can possibly be overlooked by many. The Scudder Intervention Services Foundation provides education and services to help address depression, abuse, and addiction issues, as well as providing effective healing, recovery, and affordable working solutions. The organization is hosting an event normalizing conversations that are about emotions, emotional pain, trauma, and wellness. We've got joining us now and giving us more details, the founder and the president of Scudder Intervention Services. We've got Brett A. Scudder. And Brett, good to have you back, brother.
Good morning, my brother. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to be here.
No, I'm glad to have an opportunity to talk to you, really, because when I talked about it in the lead, that there really is so many people who really deal with mental and emotional wellness, but yet and still, if you look at them from just a normal bird's eye view, everybody seems to be looking good, but really not feeling good.
Yes. And the reason for that, Daren, is the fact that we have become a society that we make people uncomfortable or feel fearful about talking about how they're feeling. And so people are suffering in silence, even right in front of us, co-workers, people in our churches, in our schools, the youth, suffering in silence right beside us, but they fear talking about how they're feeling because of rejection, being labeled, or people pressing the panic button. So we're really in a very scary time right now where so many people are dealing with emotional despair, trauma, PTSD, addiction, anxiety, and suffering in silence as a result of that.
Conversation is a word that we always hear. We got to have more conversation. We have to have more dialogue. This is the things that are going to really make things better. But we understand there's also an aversion to conversations. We know in the African-American community, communities of color, counseling, therapy, these aren't things that are commonly received well. And sometimes we put it to the side for fear of somebody looking at us like I'm crazy. Well, speak to that.
Well, you're right. In our Black and minority communities, we never talked about mental health for years, but we were ones that were more affected by gun violence, trauma, homelessness, a whole lot of different challenges that pushed people of color into emotional despair. And so now what we are seeing is this massive influx of people who are now saying, I need mental health services because I realize that there is something wrong. And where do I get the services? There isn't enough cultural competency within the mental health system or the healthcare system to deal with people of color. And so, yes, you hear a lot of people saying that I need a clinician who is of my own color or my ethnicity, and it's hard to find that. But one of the things I will also say, Daren, is this. We have a one-track system where everybody goes through that same system, right? Whether you want to have talk therapy or you're clinically depressed or you are diagnosed with a mental illness, everybody has to go through the same pipeline. And it ties up the resources of the clinicians who are really on a higher level of qualification to deal with the mental illness or the chronic mental health conditions. So we really have to start separating that. If there are people who just want someone to talk with, let them talk with peers, peer counseling, or just get into a peer support group where they're around people who like minds, people who've gone through their experiences. But if they really say, listen, I'm really on the deep end right now, foreign, I need to talk to someone who's more qualified, then let's put them in that line. But we cannot sustain this system by everybody being in the same line for services when the services are being tied up by people who just maybe on the lower end.
Well, I want to bring in your very special event that you're having because you're really addressing some of these issues, bringing them front and center. So let's unpack what the event is and how this event is different than others.
All my events are different than others. I'm very vocal about see my pin here.
Yeah.
I wear this everywhere I go, and I'm getting people to be more forward, comfortable. Let's have a conversation, right? So all my events are challenging the norm of being not afraid to talk about the challenges that we're going through. So these events coming up on the 26th and the 27th. The one on the 26th talks about emotions unraveled and unraveling. Just really talking about how we're feeling, what we're feeling, putting emotion to what we're feeling, and then being able to link that to proper services. The event on the 27th is a mental health providers resource fair that is tying all the mental health providers who are actively providing services and have access to services to come out and to tell people what their work is and their availability. Two very important events that are going to challenge this crisis that we're dealing with mental and emotional wellness.
When we talk about looking at people and seeing that they're dealing with so much, they're dealing with trauma, tragedy. Some of us are dealing with, self-esteem issues. Give us, what can I look at when I'm looking at a person to be able to diagnose? We know that suicide is huge and prevalent in communities right now. And they go to work today, and next day someone's taking their life. What can we look for? What can we do to better assess and take inventory of the people who are around us?
That's a great question. I get that question every time, everywhere I go. It's not about what we should be looking for. Over 95% of the people who complete suicide, no one knew they were suicidal. No one knew they were going through the pain and suffering they were going through. And so they completed suicide because of lack of awareness around them. So if you think about that, the question that we should be asking ourselves is, what should we be listening for? It's a listening. We need to listen carefully to what people are saying. In our trainings and our workshop, we talk about subliminal messages. Those subliminal messages are words, as phrases or statements that people make to express how they're really feeling, that sometimes we overlook that. So it's not always about looking for things. And if we're looking for things, a lot of times we're going to miss the opportunity to connect with people who are in pain, emotional distress, or one step away from killing themselves. But we need to be listening more. We have this thing, Daren, where we go, "Hey, my brother Daren, how you feeling?" And we're gone, right? We're moving so fast with that question. But
Mm-hmm.
what if we really took a minute to say, "Hey, Daren, how you feeling, brother? How are you doing? How is life? How's the family?" And really spend a few minutes to make that meaningful connection to Daren. That will make such a significant impact in our society and the things that we're doing right now.
Yeah, I do it myself sometimes. I talk to people and say, "How you doing?" And then they'll give me the answer. I say, "How you doing?" They'll say, "I just told you." I say, "No, how you doing?" Because sometimes you do have to go past the surface, and I think that that's the problem and the issue that sometimes we really don't want to address is that we're very good at doing surface things, surface relationships, but in order to deal some of this emotional trauma, some of this, healing that needs to take place, there's got to be going way beyond the surface.
Yes. And that's what makes people uncomfortable. If you think about it, how many people would be willing to just tell you, like, "I'm so depressed right now, I couldn't even get out of bed. I'm so depressed right now, I didn't even want to wake up this morning. I'm in so much pain from all this COVID crap and this COVID. Every time I hear COVID, I feel like I just want to kill myself." How do we get people to be comfortable with those type of statements? Is by normalizing the conversation. And one of the things that I have a really big issue with is the fact that we keep throwing suicide under mental health banner, right? So it's a mental health event, and maybe 5-10 minutes of it is going to cover suicide. But people think about suicide as only death. We're trying to get the narrative to change. We need to think about suicide from all the things a person can go through that can disrupt their life, that now puts them on the edge of wanting to kill themselves.
Yeah. But I want to ask you this question about COVID because, we say we're on the other side of it right now. We can admit that we're on the other side of it right now. But there's a danger that's looming because while we look like we're on the other side of it, there's something about not recognizing the effects of COVID that people are still dealing with that we're seeing in PTSD, that we're seeing that's being played out right now. And some of the stuff that we're seeing are really direct effects of what people have had to encounter and deal with COVID.
Listen, it is real. It is real. Someone in my house just got COVID, and I'm telling you, watching them go through that pain and that suffering, sleepless nights, all of that stuff was very painful for me too. It is still very prevalent. This new variant of Omicron is very serious. And I think we want to get so far away from COVID that we're letting our guard down. And people are still getting the virus. People are still dying from the virus because people just really want to get on with their life, get away from it. But let me just say this. the PTSD of this COVID pandemic is going to be with us for the next 10 years minimum. We're going to be seeing such an increase in people with trauma, PTSD from that trauma, the emotional impacts of this trauma, and it's going to be very hard. You look at the stats right now, we don't have enough mental health practitioners to meet that need. So yes, this COVID pandemic and this COVID, situation is very real. It's still very prevalent, and it's going to create more problems.
Brett, we gotta go, but definitely want to keep this conversation flowing. So the door is always open. Come on back, be able to share, because this is something that really, unfortunately, is not going away. But as we say, we can do our part here and have conversation, dialogue. Brett Scudder, my brother, good having you.
Good too, my brother. Good too. And just for anyone who wants to know more about those events, go to our website, sisfi.org, and you'll find out about the events on the 26th and 27th. We would love to have you with us.
Man, you stole my line, but I'm just going to let you get away with it this time. Matter of fact, I'm just going to do it again. If you want more information, visit the website, sisfi.org, and then follow them on social media at SISFI. We encourage you to don't go anywhere. We've got more show coming up right after this.
Fostering a pet for a friend or neighbor can keep families together. Learn more at petsandpeopletogether.org.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. Can you see anything different as a pill?
No.
You don't know?
Fentanyl is being mixed into everything now. There's only one thing that will save somebody's life. That is naloxone nasal spray.
Fentanyl, it's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable.
Why would drug dealers put a lethal dose of fentanyl in drugs if they know it's so harmful?
Really just all about the money.
I just didn't realize that one pill could change your whole life.
More kids should know.
Dear moms and dads, what you have achieved here today is going to help us and our futures. It is why we are coming up on stage to collect your diplomas.
You know it's true.
Mom, we love you always.
Everything I do.
When you graduate, they graduate. Visit finishyourdiploma.org to find free and supportive adult education centers near you.
I don't know why you're so sad. You've got a roof over your head.
Bro, you gotta stop with that depression stuff. That's a white people thing.
Escúchame, en esta casa los hombres no lloran.
You all right?
It just feels like it's coming from everywhere.
Do you want to talk about it?
Thanks for hearing me out, bro. Appreciate it.
You can talk to me if you're feeling sad.
Whenever you need to talk, I'm here, okay?
Now, more than 14,000 women in the United States are diagnosed with invasive cervical cancer each year. However, the disease is preventable with vaccination and appropriate screening. Here now to share more information is the Gynecologic Oncologist at Montefiore Einstein Cancer Center, Dr. Nicole Nevadunsky. And thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me here today. Cervical cancer is a leading cause of cancer worldwide and a leading cause of cancer deaths for women. The cervix is located inside a woman's body. This is the part when a woman has a baby that dilates to 10 centimeters. But women can't observe and make sure that their cervixes are healthy and safe by themselves. They need their doctors or their nurses or healthcare providers to perform screening.
So when we talk about these screenings, it's very important for these screenings to take place. But how often should a person be screened?
That's a great question because sometimes the recommendations change. But as of right now, a woman at normal risk for cervical cancer should be screened with something called a pap smear, which her GYN doctor does in the office once every 3 years. Again, so that's a pap smear once every 3 years. There's also a new form of screening called HPV testing, human papillomavirus testing, and that can be performed once every 5 years. Some women even have both testing together at the same visit.
Talk to people about signs and symptoms because this is very important, right? I think we talked about how often you should be screened, but I think it's more important too that people know exactly about signs and symptoms. Are they commonly visible? What can you tell us?
So for early cervical cancer, there are no signs and symptoms. That's why it's so important for a woman to go to her gynecologist annually and to have that testing like we talked about at least every 3 years. When cervix cancer has grown and spread, symptoms can include bleeding that happens when a woman is not supposed to have her normal monthly menstrual bleeding. It can also cause bleeding after sexual intercourse. When cancers have spread a lot, a woman might experience pelvic pain or discharge, and it's very important that she see her GYN doctor or her family doctor as soon as possible.
Give me a little insight here because once a person is diagnosed, obviously that's a very traumatizing time for some. After a diagnosis, how do you guide that patient and navigate them through after they've gotten the news?
Well, early cervical cancer is almost 100% curable. The ways that we treat early cervical cancer usually involve surgery, and it hopefully can just be surgery and not need any other treatments. For patients who come with advanced cervical cancers, their treatment usually includes chemotherapy, which is an infusion, and or radiation therapy. What is exciting is that scientific research has provided us other tools to treat cervical cancer, like immunotherapies and targeted therapies.
And as we talk about treatments, it's very important that a person is treated. How long is that treatment process? We talked a little bit about what it entails. How long does that treatment process go for?
Well, if someone has an early cervical cancer and has a surgery, hopefully she's having a surgery and recovering within a 6-week time period. If someone needs to have radiation or chemotherapy, that process can take several months. But I think what's really important and what's really important for Cervical Cancer Awareness Month is to think about ways that we can prevent to getting to that point. And I know we mentioned screening. There's also a highly effective preventative measure.
So go ahead and take it away. You said how
you
got us to the edge now. You got to take us there.
Are the way that we can prevent cervical cancer. Vaccinations happen when children are 11 to 13 years old. It's 3 doses, and women are eligible for vaccinations up to the age of 26. In certain situations, patients beyond the age of 26 can even have vaccinations against cervical cancer. In countries where people have taken vaccinations for cervical cancer, meaning over 70% of the population has been vaccinated, they have already seen drops of over 25% in rates of precancers and cancerous cells. And some of those countries believe that they will be able to completely eradicate cervical cancer. But it's really important to get those vaccinations.
Yeah. Dr. Nicole, talk to me about what you see coming through your doors right now. When the conversations had about cervical cancer, is it something that a lot of women are speaking about, or is it a conversation that you have to introduce in order to make people more aware?
Well, I think with lots of issues that deal with women, there's a taboo, and people don't want to talk about irregular menstruation or bleeding after intercourse. And sometimes they feel embarrassed, or they feel that somehow they caused this to happen to them. So hopefully they're finding their way to their doctor's office or into my office. One of the things I think we're really struggling with is from the pandemic that women did not go for their annual GYN exam or their pap testing. And so I've seen a lot of patients when they've had an abnormal pap result, really blaming themselves and saying, hey, I didn't come, I should have come, and really feeling guilty about that. I think we all understand that the past 3 years have been incredibly hard for everyone. And I really encourage women, it's not too late. Come in, get your pap test. If you're already having one of those symptoms that we also talked about, come in sooner than later, because there are very effective treatments.
Yeah. And so for people who want more information, what exactly do they do? How do they tap in?
So the best way to get connected to a provider is to contact your family doctor or your gynecologist. There are many good providers at the Montefiore healthcare system where I work, but at other healthcare systems as well. If you want additional information about cervix cancer and treatments in general, I think that the American Cancer Society has an excellent wealth of information that is vetted and true and helpful and written in a way that people can really understand it.
Yeah. And before we go, I want to get an opportunity to talk a little bit about the risk factors, because that's very huge, right? And what are the risk factors that are involved in this?
So we think that almost all cervical cancers are caused by the HPV virus. Now, the HPV virus is very common. It is a sexually transmitted disease, but over 60% of people in the United States of America who have ever had intercourse will be infected with HPV. HPV does not cause cancer for all of these patients. However, if it's persistent, then these cancers can develop. So, multiple lifetime sexual partners, early start of sexual intercourse, these are main risk factors for cervical cancer. Also, some patients have factors that they can't control, like immunocompromise, an HIV infection or a problem with an immunologic disease like rheumatoid arthritis, where they have to take certain medications, really is a big risk factor. The other thing that is an absolutely modifiable, meaning changeable risk factor, is smoking. So if women are able to stop smoking, their bodies are more able to clear the HPV virus and stop cervix cancer before it even starts.
Dr. Nicole Nevadunsky, thank you so much for being with us, talking about cervical cancer and Cervical Health Awareness Month. Thank you. I think a lot of information we'll be able to dispense, and hopefully people will take advantage of it. Thanks again for joining us.
Thank you for having me today.
All righty. For more information, you can visit cancer.montefioreeinstein.org. Then follow them on social media at Montefiore NYC. We're encouraging you, don't go anywhere. We'll be back more open right after this.
I'll see ya.
After a basketball game, a black teenage boy, Brandon, reads his texts in his family group chat. Auntie Flo, congrats on the big win. Mom, that's my baby. Brandon replies, thanks y'all. In a park, his sister Maya texts, where are we celebrating? Dad replies, home. Mom texts, I got dinner going. Auntie Flo replies, ooh, I can't wait. Then receives a FEMA flood watch text alert. She texts the family, anyone see that weather alert? We need a plan to stay safe, especially after last year. Ready has a list of resources at ready.gov/plan. In his workshop, Dad sends a photo of emergency supplies and texts, looks like we need flashlights and batteries, leaving a store with a shopping bag. Brandon replies, I got us covered. Mom texts, I'll check in with Grandma and Papa. Maya texts, thanks Auntie, feeling good about this plan.
I got some batteries and 2 flashlights.
What's up, champ? Feel like you get taller every time I see you.
Stay connected.
Congratulations, Brandon.
Man, it's lonely. Like, going through life lonely.
There is the therapeutic aspect of music, just expressing how you feel.
I'm going to talk to Howie about his feelings, make it into a song.
¿Qué color? Perfecto, mijo.
Gracias. Thank you.
What's wrong, mijo?
Donating to a pet's medical care is one of the many ways you can help families in your community. Pets and people belong together. Learn more at petsandpeopletogether.org.
Feel the beat of nature at a park or forest near you. Find a forest and music inspired by nature at discovertheforest.org.
STEM is everywhere, like here, behind the scenes of The Walking Dead.
When we break down clothes, we tumble it with trisodium phosphate, rock salt, and dish detergent.
We stitched together images of our model and created a 3D set that could be walked through in a VR headset.
We're able to turn 12 walkers into 1,000 walker boards.
STEM can create new worlds on and off the screen. What will you make with STEM? Get inspired at shecanstem.com.
You can now watch MNN, Brick TV, QPTV, and SIC TV on BronxNet. Tune in to BX Omni, Channel 67 Optimum, 2133 Fios during most Sunday evenings. We'll show you some amazing content from our friends at Manhattan Neighborhood Network, Brick TV in Brooklyn, Queens Public Television, and Staten Island Community Television. Every borough represented in the Boogie Down. Epic partnerships for the ages. And catch our new Next channel, produced in partnership with MNN, 24/7 on BronxNet Channel 952 Optimum and 2138 Fios.
And we are back. Sapna NYC is an organization that's transforming the lives of South Asian immigrant women by improving health, expanding economic opportunities, and creating social networks and building a collective voice for change. And joining me now, we've got the Executive Director of Sapna NYC Incorporated, Diya Basu-Sen. We're glad to have you back. Diya, good to have you.
Excellent. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you. And listen, you know, you're located somewhere in the heart of the Bronx. And when you talk about the Southeast Asian community, or I should say the South Asian immigrant community, talk to us about where we can particularly find that community located right in the borough.
Absolutely. I think that oftentimes, right, when people think of South Asians, they're always thinking about Queens. But there are South Asians kind of spread throughout the boroughs, and the Bronx actually has a really rapidly growing Asian population. We're based in Parkchester, which is the heart of the Bengali community in the Bronx, and it's the largest Bengali community in the Bronx, but you do also find a lot of Bengalis spread throughout in Soundview, in Norwood, and really scattered as well in other areas.
And for your organization, an opportunity to really tap into the community. Give us a little bit about where you are right now and the work that you're doing right now in the community.
Sure. So this is actually our 15th year. So we've been around for a long time. And our work is always changing and evolving with what the needs that we are seeing at the moment in the community. So there's things that we think that we should work on, but we're always on the ground listening and seeing what's happening as well. So in this kind of post-pandemic period, a lot of our work is still on recovery for our community and what that looks like for them to kind of be going back to work, for them to be trying to kind of come out some of the financial difficulties they've had these past few years, to deal with some of the rising domestic violence rates we've seen as well. So our work centers around health, around women's empowerment, as well as kind of community building.
When we talk about immigrant rights right now, we know that that's a big challenge, and you've had your hands full. How can you regard immigrant rights right now? What are the things that you're really looking to have addressed, particularly within the community?
one of the things that we really firmly believe is that knowledge is power, and that if our community doesn't have the knowledge of what rights actually exist, what services exist, how systems work in this country, it's really difficult for them to access all the things that they need. And it also leaves them kind of open for exploitation as well. So our immigrants' rights work is really about making sure our community has the knowledge, that they know if certain things happen, these are, this is the recourse that they have. These are the systems and protections that are in place, that there's organizations like Sapna that can help them, but also that even on their own, there's places they can call. So that centers around tenant protections, workforce protections, survivor protections, anti-Asian hate and discrimination protections as well, protections for undocumented folks. But again, it's really just making sure that they know what things are out there and what their legal rights are, and then how they can move forward if they feel like they're not getting kind of what they need.
Yeah. You also do a great job of wrapping around women. You got your women's circle there, and really taking the time to empower women. Give us a little bit more about the women's circle.
Sure. So our women's circle has been around for a while, but last year we kind of really started doing a much bigger, more regular circle with our mental health counselor. And with the women's circle, it's really creating a space that is for women and by women, something that is often hard to find in our community, and kind of the world at large. So in the women's circle, they meet weekly, and sometimes we'll have particular topics that we want to discuss. Sometimes those are heavy topics. Sometimes it's just kind of things around daily life, but they're also welcome to bring up any topics of their own. The idea is that, people are new, they're isolated, they come to a country, they don't know anyone. Oftentimes they're just staying at home, they don't know the language. So through this women's circle, they're able to make friends, they're able to get information or resources. And again, just find a space to connect with other people who kind of share similar experiences. It's run completely in Bengali. And we're actually really excited that next month we will be starting a similar circle, and that is going to be led in Hindi as well, for Hindi and Urdu speakers, because we've had, again, such great response from our community for the women's circle.
Yeah. I know when you talk about coming from a community, one community into another, that transition is huge. And you have to learn the culture. You also have to learn about, the economic structure, finances. And I know for yourself, your organization is really doing something new, really special with financial literacy. Talk to us about what can this financial literacy program do for those who will be a part of them.
So we are excited that in May we are going to start this new series of financial literacy courses for women. And the idea of these courses is to give people kind of the background knowledge they need around credit, banking in the US, taxes, tax forms and things like that they get in work. Again, just to give them that base knowledge. Some of the things that we've seen in our community is that women are often not the ones who deal with the finances in the household. And sometimes, there's traumatic events, there's things that happen, and suddenly they are responsible for that. And not having any sort of knowledge makes them really vulnerable. So we've been having a lot of domestic violence survivors, for example. So when they leave a situation of abuse, now suddenly they're responsible for not only themselves, but oftentimes children, and they need to figure out how to pay bills, how to access a bank account, and they have, how to file taxes, and they've never done any of this before. We've also had community members who they've had their husbands suddenly and tragically pass away, and suddenly again, they're left with all these tasks that they've never done before. So we want to really give people that baseline knowledge so that, should anything happen, they have those skills, but also so that they can be active participants in their household and they can understand kind of what money is coming in, how it's working, how, again, the systems in this country work.
Yeah. Assess for us a little bit the needs of South Asian immigrant women. I know that that's the focus and that's your target, right? So talk to us about what do you identify as some of the more specific needs that maybe we as a community may be oblivious to?
Some of the things that we're seeing right now with the immigrant population that we're working with is really rising rates of domestic violence. So having legal services, just case management to help them navigate these situations and again, starting that new life. We're also seeing a lot of housing and food insecurity. So struggles to meet kind of basic needs in the community. And again, not knowing kind of what protections or services or benefits they might be eligible for. And then lastly, we're also seeing digital literacy being a huge need, through the pandemic, but even before, right? Things are more and more moving online. And in our community, a lot of people are not so comfortable with computers. Maybe they don't have access to a computer either. So a lot of our work is also teaching computer literacy classes, helping people actually get access to donated laptops, and just kind of opening up that digital world for them.
Yeah. A lot of great work you're doing, Diya, and thank you so much for being with us. Keep up the great work. There she is, the Executive Director of Sapna NYC, Diya Basu-Sen. Thank you for being with us.
Excellent. Thank you so much for having me today.
All righty. Well, I want to let you know if you want more information, please visit their website at sapnanyc.org and then follow them on Facebook and also Instagram at Sapna NYC. We're encouraging, don't go anywhere. We've got more open coming up right after this.
You're not going to get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat.
How do you know when you've made the right decision? It's the feeling you get in your gut. The one that tells you what's right or wrong. It's the one that says, sure, I can have a drink. Or the feeling that says, okay, I've been drinking. Now what? It's the voice inside you that says, I'm buzzed. Better leave the car when it's time to go. Plan ahead. Catch a sober ride. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
You can talk to me if you're feeling sad.
Thanks for hearing me out, bro.
Whenever you need to talk, I'm here, okay?
Most hiring algorithms would scream me out.
Some bosses couldn't see me as a leader.
I've run this place for 20 years, but I still need to prove that I'm more than what you see on paper.
I've been running code as long as I've been able to reach a keyboard.
This is what I do. It's second nature for me, coordinating 100 details at once.
It's the way my mind works. I have a very mechanical brain.
I sold them on my skills.
You gotta be so good they can't ignore you.
My magic is
analytics and empathy. That's how I'm getting clients. You have to have the confidence in yourself to show up and defy the odds.
I am more than who I am on paper.
I never got a college degree. And today, I'm the CEO of my own company. People want to tell me I'm one in a million, when actually I'm one of millions. Stars are all around us. It's time for them to shine.
And welcome back. Our last guest has dedicated her life to the service of others in honor of her father. She's coordinated countless drives, providing several pounds of food to the community. Joining us now is the founder of the Rick Miller Foundation, Shanda Johnson.
Hi.
How are you?
I am amazing. It feels great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And thank you for the work that you're doing. I mean, how's it feel? You've got your foundation and really you want to be able to say, I'm giving back to my community.
It's the most rewarding feeling to be able to have this foundation in honor of my dad, who passed in 2016, and I continue his journey and live through his mission vicariously.
So you talk about your dad, right?
Yes,
So why did you decide to name it after your dad?
Because he's my hero. My dad is my mentor. He's someone that inserted himself into the community in such a powerful and outstanding manner. and touched the lives of a lot of people and mentored a lot of people. So I've always looked up to my dad, and he's always been a staple in the community throughout New York City. My father's done a lot of work.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
here he is embedded in you. Now you're carrying it out. You're carrying it out in the community. You're taking
Yes.
food and getting it to people. When did you start saying, listen, I want to do this. I'm going to gather food. I'm going to make sure my community's fed?
10 years ago. I had the opportunity of partnering up with KFC. I started on a very small scale, and I thought, wow, Dad, we made it. We have KFC, we have biscuits, we have chicken. We are out here. We're giving, he would cover different boroughs, and I would cover different boroughs, and we thought that was it. And we were excited, and my dad would go everywhere, any time of the night, donate stuff, and I would be on the other side donating stuff. And I thought the response back from the people, I felt at that moment we were in a crisis, that they really needed the food and they needed the resources. And that is what made me choose this direction in my life and to follow my dad's footsteps and try to get better faster with securing more places to get food.
So here you are out here on the hunt, trying to get some food, right? Trying to make sure that people are being fed.
Right.
A newbie, if you will.
Yeah.
What was it like dealing with people, the reaction to people? Were they very supportive, apprehensive? You know, there's a lot of organizations out there. How did it work for you?
Well, the interaction with the people you're asking, I feel like being able to touch the lives of so many people every day. I do this 7 days a week by myself. I think just seeing it firsthand of how much they need food and resources, I walked away knowing that it was time for me really to get better, faster, like I said, and put the focus on the lives of the less fortunate, the overseen, the underserved, and the unheard. And I felt like that was a critical part of the decision to give myself into the community 110%. And that's what I did, maintaining a full-time job.
So this isn't your this is your passion, but yet and still you've got a whole full-time job that you do.
Yeah.
Well, why is it important for you to say, listen, you know what? I'm going to give back to my community?
Because the community needs a voice. They need someone that's committed. They need someone that's driven. And they need someone that understands that I can be in that position one day. So I want to be the person that is approachable when I drive up in my car and I'm like, anybody need food? And they come over. I never want to be afraid of us. I always want to be able to enter any part of New York City and feel like I am doing the work of God and presenting myself in a way that people don't feel that they can't trust me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for yourself, since doing the work, what's been the most impactful moment for you, the thing that sticks out in your head the most?
Outside of this being my very first interview, and looking forward to always being able to get to a platform and having something super important to say. It's just really all the doors that opened after my dad passed and knowing that he had everything to do with it. Because he probably said, if she thinks KFC is it, wait until I let her know that she's gonna cover 4 Whole Foods. She's gonna cover Longhorn Steakhouse. She's gonna cover Red Lobster. She's gonna cover Olive Garden. She's gonna cover Chipotle. She's gonna cover 7-Eleven. She's gonna cover Insomnia Cookies. She's gonna cover everywhere that she always thought she couldn't cover. I'm gonna make sure that she is out there and being able to provide different food and healthy choices and options to people across the New York City tri-state area.
And talk to me a little bit about the Rick Miller Foundation.
Well, the Rick Miller Foundation is my dream. It is my vision, it is my life, and it is something that every New Yorker will hear about one day.
And of course, if you don't know, that's her foundation that she's working with right now, named in honor of her father. And as you look towards the future, I know you got goals in mind. Everybody does. 2023, new year. What can we expect to see?
I want a van, a mobile with all of my stuff inside. So when I'm traveling through the boroughs, everything is accessible. If people need anything, I come in with my van and I have everything there, and I'm operating 7 days a week, like I do now, but on a bigger scale. And then the long-term goal is to have a warehouse that operates 7 days a week, because right now I'm operating out of my home, and my garage looks like Whole Foods.
Yeah.
And I want to take the time to thank my mom for allowing me to take over her space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've taken this garage now, you transitioned it into your own mini warehouse right now?
Yeah.
So the future goal is like, look, I need a space of my own.
My mother knows I need a space of my own. She's right there. She's climbing over boxes, but she knows that the work is in my heart, and I'm passionate about what I do. Very passionate. So
what's that like at home? Move that box up.
Oh, move that box. When is all of this stuff in this corner going? So it's always a rotating day of moving boxes, but I get it done. But my mom is an amazing person, and she's really a patient person with me, because I don't think that I can do it.
So when did the light go on for you that I'm doing it? You know, you talk about thinking you can do it. You're doing it, right? So when did the light go off for you to say, hey, I really can do this thing?
I think when I created my Instagram page and I saw that people were leaving comments from the places that I donated from, because I would tag them and I would see like Food Bank, NYC, and all of these different places that I looked up to, and I said, wow, they're acknowledging my work. I mean, I know that I'm being acknowledged by the people that I serve every day, but to see people that I've looked up to that inspired me, all of these other non-for-profits throughout New York City, that was the defining moment for me, that I'm on board and lining up with the best.
Yeah, and one of the things you do, you're able to actually collect food from restaurants. And,
yes.
And that's been great, because a lot of times people don't, restaurants really aren't so supportive, but for yourself, share a little bit about how that works, and how you're able to take that food that goes from the restaurant and put it right right back in the community.
Well, I am in partnership with Food Donation Connection, and anytime there's an opportunity to get food, they will call me and ask me, can you pick up from Chipotle, Olive Garden? Even if my plate is full, I say yes, and I make a way of getting to that food. So like if I know in my mind, Shanda, can you take Red Lobster on a Wednesday? I will get on the phone and say yes. Even if I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? But it always works out. Yeah. So, you know, I get the call, I make the connection, and I secure it and pick up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations. It's a
Thank you so much. I appreciate it so much.
Listen, it's your first interview.
My very first interview is with you, Daren. Yes.
Thank you. Remember me now.
I will.
You know, because when you're up there, Daren was my first interview.
My
so when
very
we come back
first
again,
interview, and I'm super excited to be here.
Super excited to have you. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Keep up the great work, Shanda.
Thank you.
All righty. Well, listen, if you want more information, you can visit her on Instagram at the Rick Miller Foundation. And I want to let you know we come to the end of our show today. I want to thank all of our guests for joining us. You, the viewer, of course, for tuning in. Now, if you missed any part of today's show, catch the Recablecast on Optimum Channel 67, Verizon Files Channel 2133, or watch anytime on the web at bronxnet.org. Of course, you can catch a brand new episode of Open with Rena Valentine on Friday. This wraps up this episode. I am Daren Jaime saying make sure keep this channel wide open, saying take care and God bless.